Hey, this is Asher here from Revenue Journey. Now in this video, I want to talk about a topic that has been coming up as I do a lot more data enrichment projects or finding of unique data pointers project. And it's this whole idea of consistency and alignment in data. Now what do I mean by that? Now as many of you may know, when you use Clay, you can use Clay as a really effective CRM enrichment and cleaning tool. So for example, you have missing number of employees, missing LinkedIn profiles, missing some unique data points about the target accounts in your company. You can actually use Clay to be able to fill in firmographics data, contact data, and all kinds of AI research. However, I think what is not talked about is this whole idea on alignment on the source of truth before you start executing and finding those data points. If you do this alignment really well, that gives you the ability to answer to leadership in terms of where you got that data. So what do I mean by that? Let's talk about something really simple like number of employees or what is the source of truth. So let's take Google for example. If you look at a random blog like this exploding topics, which is first page on Google, when you type in number of Google employees, it will tell you that the number of full-time employees is 183,000. However, when you go into LinkedIn, the number of associated members for Google is close to 300,000. Now, obviously, this might not be fully accurate as well, right? Because this could be maybe ambassadors or like Clay. Clay has a lot of Clay creators and Clay experts. They are not essentially employees. But the whole idea is this, it doesn't really matter the exact answer because nobody really knows unless you're internally, you're in HR within that company and you have access to all this data. But what's important is an alignment between the leadership team or management team to say, where do we get the source of truth? Where do we get the source of data? And even in my projects with my clients, what I like to go through is a couple of steps, especially when it comes to simple things like account enrichment. You can see I have one step over here that confirms the source of truth of key metrics. And I'll ask questions such as, hey, for this particular data source, do we use LinkedIn as the source of truth? For financing status, do we use PageBook? Do we use Crunchbase? What is the data point that you want us to use? For revenue, do we use ZoomInfo? Or is there any other data source that you really want me to look at? So those are the questions that we ask. I'll show you an example over here if I were to jump into the next page. So this is one such example where I already have the discussion with the client and we say that we are going to look at mainly the company LinkedIn profile, looking at the people's tab and looking at the number of associated members. We have aligned that is our source of truth for this particular project. So this is where we go into Clay and we have the company name, we have the company website. We will try to find the LinkedIn company page and from there we put the people /people behind and we actually get AI to extract the number of associated members. Only once we have done this step do we then determine, do they meet our criteria? Are they above a certain number of employees? And this is where we come back really to an alignment and consistency in terms of where the data source comes from. You may think that simple things like number of employees doesn't really matter, but when we go into really specific data points that could help your messaging, things like have they been acquired before, when did they get acquired, or maybe really specific things like has their drug passed FDA approval. These are things that you want to make sure you can find a particular website, and even when you reach out you can say, hey, I noticed on this particular website that your drug has just passed as FDA approval. So hopefully this gives you a good idea in terms of some of the best practices to do even before you execute on data enrichment.